Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're talking about one of those quiet heroes in American history, a man whose work changed lives far beyond his time. His name was Lawrence Clifton Jones. He was called the Little Professor of Piney Woods. And if you've never heard of him, well, that's exactly why this story matters. Because this is about how one man turned a patch of Mississippi farmland into one of the most important educational movements in the South, and how his fight against illiteracy still speaks directly to the struggles we face today. The Deep South at that time was a world still scarred by slavery, segregation, and poverty. For most black families, education wasn't just hard to get, it was almost impossible. Schools were underfunded, overcrowded, and in some areas, non-existent. In Rankin County, the illiteracy rate among African Americans was devastatingly high. Whole generations growing up unable to read or write. And that's where Lawrence Jones stepped in. He wasn't rich. He didn't have government backing. He had something better, a vision. Jones believed that education was the great equalizer, that literacy could transform not just individuals, but entire communities. He had studied at Iowa's Simpson College, one of the few northern schools that welcomed black students. When he graduated, he could have stayed up north, lived a comfortable life. But he didn't. He came south, right into the heart of Mississippi, to start a school for children who'd never held a book in their hands. When he arrived, he found a rural area surrounded by pine forests and red clay soil. No classrooms, no desks, no chalkboards. So, he did the only thing he could do. He built one. He started teaching under a tree, using the ground as his blackboard and broken sticks as chalk. A handful of children came at first, then their parents, then others from miles away. That was the birth of what would become the Piney Woods Country Life School, a place where education was not just learned but lived. What made Jones's school different was that it didn't just teach reading and writing. It taught self-sufficiency. Students learned how to farm, repair tools, build. So everything needed to make a community thrive. His philosophy was simple but radical. Education is not a gift, it's a responsibility. And with that, he started chipping away at the wall of illiteracy that had trapped generations. By the 1920s and 1930s, something extraordinary happened. Piney Woods grew, from a makeshift classroom in the forest to a full campus with dormitories, workshops, and fields. It became a beacon of hope not only for Rankin County but for African Americans across the South. And while most schools struggled to keep students reading at a basic level, Jones's students were publishing their own newsletters, building their own facilities, and training as teachers to bring education back to their home communities. One by one, they became torchbearers, spreading literacy far beyond the school itself. But let's not romanticize this, because Jones's journey wasn't easy. He faced racism, intimidation, and even threats of violence. When white supremacists accused him of quote-unquote teaching above his place, he didn't back down. When money ran out, and it often did, he and his students sold vegetables, raised pigs, and even performed concerts to fund their education. He turned struggle into innovation. He built not just a school, but a movement. And here's the thing. His mission fighting illiteracy isn't over. Even today, more than a century later, we still face a literacy crisis, especially in minority and low-income communities. Let's look at the numbers for a second. In some areas of the U.S., especially in the Deep South, reading proficiency among Black and Latino students is below 30%. That's not just a statistic. That's a crisis. It means millions of children are growing up without the basic tools to navigate the modern world, just like those kids in Rankin County over 100 years ago. And yet, Jones already gave us the blueprint for how to fix it. He showed us that education can't be top-down. It has to start within communities. He believed in hands-on learning, mentorship, and empowerment. He knew that books alone don't change lives. People do. He taught that when you teach a child to read, You're not just teaching letters. You're teaching confidence, identity, and freedom. And here's what hits me most about Lawrence Jones's story. He didn't wait for anyone to give him permission to make change. He became the change. He saw a problem, and he built a solution with his own hands, one lesson at a time. That's something we desperately need today, especially when it comes to literacy in minority communities. Because it's not enough to have libraries or programs on paper. We need people in neighborhoods, mentors, retired teachers, parents, doing what Jones did, meeting people where they are. Reading circles, community classes, peer tutoring, those are modern versions of the Piney Woods model. Imagine if every struggling school district had a Lawrence Jones, someone who believed in the genius of every child, no matter where they came from. Someone who saw education not as charity, but as liberation. What would our country look like? How many lives could be changed? When Lawrence C. Jones passed away in 1975, his school had already educated thousands, and it's still operating today. That's over a century of light, passed from hand to hand, generation to generation. And maybe that's the lesson here. When you teach someone to read, you're not just improving literacy. You're building bridges across time, connecting one person's courage to another's future. So the next time you hear about low reading scores or struggling schools, remember Piney Woods. Remember the man who started teaching under a tree, with nothing but a stick and a dream. Because the story of Lawrence Jones reminds us, we don't just need better schools. We need believers. Believers in what education can do. Believers that one spark of literacy can set a whole community on fire with possibility. If this story inspired you, share it, and maybe even find a way to light a spark of your own in your community. Because every child deserves someone like Lawrence Jones, someone who refuses to let ignorance have the last word.